You have to think of, in the early stages, a startup isn't a product. A startup is almost like a...
Hey everyone, welcome back to the Three Bosses podcast. Last time we discussed Amazon's tool called Mechanical Turk that they use as a human stand-in for real machine-powered automation.
Yeah.
Of course, that type of thing can save time building prototypes, but if we're saying it's wrong to expose the general public to these systems, then maybe we should explore other ways of meeting those tight deadlines without risking customer safety or the company's integrity.
Great.
To start off, tell me about what prototyping looks like from your experience. And really, let's explore how successful products get developed.
Yeah, so I was going to say, like, the screenshot is the fundamental primitive. I think next level up is a Figma mock, because Figma has these rich set of features in their mocks. So like Figma will let you click on a button and go to the next screenshot.
Oh, I see. You're talking about like an interactive prototype.
Yeah. Like so fundamental primitive is just screenshot.
Sure.
Second level of richness is like these Figma mocks where if a user clicks on a screenshot, it actually takes them to the next screenshot and makes the user feel like this might be a sort of live app.
Sure. It's like a pictures only prototype.
Yeah, it's like a pictures only prototype with like little clickable parts of each picture that follow the UI flow.
Sure.
And then there's the video. So this is really popular too. Maybe you have one developer on the team and like in a week, the developer just throws together a skeleton, like 3 screens. And so they don't even release this to users. It's like too hacky to release to users. But they just take a video. It's just a video. It's like the developer's like, all right, this is how it's going to look. This is what I'm thinking, blah, blah, blah. And like the users get it. They're like, oh, this is cool. Like a video walkthrough. I could figure out if I would like this or not.
Oh, sure. Yeah.
You have to think of, in the early stages, a startup isn't a product. A startup is almost like a mindset. You have like a problem space that you're focusing on, and you have some things that you're building. But what you really want and need is these fast iteration loops where you go, all right, we built this thing, it's not useful, but we learned some really cool insights that other people don't know now because we built.
Totally.
Right? What's the best next lily pad for us? Oh, it's not building this product, it's this other thing. Okay, boom, 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 boom. And now it's like you start the loop over again. Here's the thing though, when you're pivoting a bunch, your team could experience burnout. You have to pivot in such a way that there's still a vision.
Yeah.
You can't be totally loose like, oh, today we're making a wine delivery service, but tomorrow we're making like AC units. Like your team's going to be like, what the fuck? We're out, right? So it's like a fine art.
I like how you phrase that a startup is more like a mindset. And I've seen startups pivot exactly like you described, not from delivery to AC units, but from product to product and vision to vision. And I think if you start out with that intent, like, hey, we don't know what our exact market fit is, but we're excited about this thing. And later, hey, we have some data that we gleaned from our first work that says, hey, this other direction, people are starting to respond to this. And we feel good about pursuing this. We want to try and approach that market and see if that will work for us.
Yep.
So there's the challenge of balancing the finances and keeping the product going before you run out of money, essentially.
Yeah.
But it's a very challenging space. And obviously, especially in that environment where you're always looking for more funding, like there's incentive for people in leadership, people product managing, et cetera, to promise something great and then just hope that you can get by.
Yeah, agreed. I suspect there was this slow build in the industry where, for example, if you're building an automation system to allow people to send faxes from your website.
Sure.
So like instead of needing access to a fax machine, your promise to the user is you can send a fax. You can type up your fax or give us your form, scan your form or whatever, and just send it from the website. You don't need to either buy a fax machine or go into the office, whatever.
Right, exactly.
I think in that case, when you go to production and you do this Mechanical Turk approach, there's a spectrum, and this is closer to the spectrum of it's probably safe because you have your employees under the hood, right? You've hired employees to sit by a fax machine, print out the user's form, and then fax it. Great. You haven't built out the automation.
Totally.
So the risk to the user there is like the employee sees your fax, perhaps.
Exactly.
But I could see safety measures being put in place. So for example, all the employees sign a liability form that says you're criminally liable if you abuse access to this information. And you could roll out the service for some very niche user needs. So for example, you're not letting users send any fax. Like let's suppose it's a municipal, city, or government form.
Right.
So you already know the constraints. Like the users, they're not filling in their social security number. It's just their work address for this form, which is required to get a license for operating a tractor. So there's like sort of reasonable constraints on the abuse or the sort of risk to the user. And so I think in that scenario, like you have the employees sign a criminal liability forms, they can't abuse this information. And then you tell the user, like, this is how we're using your information. We're only exposing to our employees the information that you're submitting in this form. Like, it's impossible for you, the user, to accidentally include your social because that's not even a form field.
Totally.
You know what I mean? So there are these reasonable constraints in place. So I think there's these in-between scenarios that sort of a company keeps pushing the line, pushing the line, pushing the line.
Sure.
And all of a sudden, you're in full-blown expose a recording of user-generated content, unconstrained. Like in the privacy of their own home, their kids are talking in the background.
Totally.
The TV's on, you know what they're listening to. Expose all that information to your employees who you've never even met. These are remote employees.
Yep.
It's just full-blown madness. Right. And so how did we get here? Well, it's a slow push. You keep pushing the boundary. You keep pushing the boundary. And suddenly, like, this is just unconscionable.
I think Amazon and Alexa, they've kind of toned it down in recent years, but they were really guilty of this back when I was working for them, was just always not just towing the line, like just bullishly crossing it and hoping they didn't get caught.
Right.
And one of the stories that came out around that time, people complained, was that the sound of a zipper could be misunderstood as the wake word for Amazon Alexa devices.
Right.
At which point it would be recording.
Yeah.
And then that recording would be transmitted back to someone to interpret because it didn't come out as decipherable language.
Right.
And then somebody is listening to you having intimate time with whoever. And it's not a recording that you intended to share with Amazon.
Yeah.
And I think that is also, obviously it's not a situation that you want, and it's not a situation that Amazon wants either.
Right.
But it is a direct result of the fact that the initial voice to text technology was not up to par.
Sure.
And so the fact that it couldn't differentiate between the sound of a zipper and its own wake word, like that's how far it was from being qualified.
Yeah.
And I think the fact that they were able to run with it, yeah, they made it to market first. Yeah, they were the market leader for years. Maybe they still are the market leader because they've been extremely aggressive in pricing. But they really took advantage of, and I think lost trust with a lot of customers. And I don't have anything specifically that I can tie it back to about why it feels so wrong, but it feels unethical to be deceitful and not directly let people know.
Sure.
Or not be more transparent about something like where they would be concerned about their privacy.
Mm-hmm.
I don't know. It's a useful technology. It's a useful concept to be able to put a human in the box, so to speak, and pretend that it's a machine to get the experience. And it definitely makes sense in some cases, you know, to your example, processing human filled out forms. Like before computers, before machines, it was all human done. Like,
right.
That's just part of existence.
Exactly.
But there's a difference when you know it's humans versus when you expect it to be a computer.
Yeah, user expectation is key, right? The reasonable user expects that this is humans. All right, it's probably fine to use humans under the hood. The reasonable user would never in 1,000 years want this, this kind of data, rich data like a voice recording, handled and in the full control of humans across the world.
Exactly.
In an unaccountable position who could never be legally enforced against or criminally held liable. Yeah, like this is like common sense stuff that really points to the fact that industry has no incentive to treat users well.
Totally. Well, now that I think about it more, obviously nobody could have predicted the state of technology today 10 years ago.
Sure.
But now you can easily generate an AI voice that sounds reasonably good with a short recording sample.
Right.
So you think about someone who has access to maybe dozens of samples from an individual. They've also potentially got access to account information or whatever else in case they need to make corrections.
Mm-hmm.
They could potentially impersonate you much more easily using your own voice and their privileged access to your data.
Oh, absolutely.
I don't know that anybody's done this. And I don't really believe that someone has hung on to these voice clips and your personal information for 10 years just waiting for the technology to advance. But
well, I think I don't want to pat myself on the back here, but I saw a lot of this coming back in like 2000. I can't remember when some of the first Amazon Echo products went to were released. But someone bought one for me for like a birthday or holiday gift. I can't remember. So I tried it out. I set it up, tried it out. I started talking to it. And then I noticed in the setup guide, it was like, oh, and by the way, we save all your voice commands that you send to the Echo. So like if you want to hear those commands, you can access them. They're like time stamped, and you can browse through all voice commands, all historical voice commands that you've sent to the Echo. And I was like,
thank you.
This is trash. I like immediately threw it away. I unsigned up. I like deleted my account. From day one, it was clear what they wanted was the user data.
Right.
I was like, okay, so this is not a product for me. It's a product for someone else because they're collecting my data. Like I'm the product. Like get me out of this ecosystem. I'm done.
Yeah, exactly. They're selling the machine learning models for voice recognition or the behavior models based around how you shop with your voice or the activities that you participate in, because now they have this privileged microphone into your living room, into your bedroom, into your wherever. So
yeah, and I think like everyone was betting long on data being the new oil, you know? And so like I don't even think they knew for sure what they were going to use this user data for. They just knew that could be another gold mine for them.
Sure.
And I was just like, all right, well, I'm out.
Totally. It's funny you mentioned that because many years ago I started a software service and I was talking to my brother about it and trying to get his input. I didn't know what data I was going to need exactly, and I was really concerned about people's privacy and really didn't want to take anything more than I absolutely needed. And for billing, I need name, I need email address.
Yeah.
But even then I was like, do I have to have passwords? Is there ways that I can reduce even further the amount of information that I collect? And my brother's advice was just collect everything, save everything, collect as much information as you possibly can and build a huge profile. And like that attitude is so polar opposite of mine, where I'm solely focused on like, how do I create a great value for the user?
Right.
And he's thinking about how do I make something that I can sell? And probably his approach would have made me money, but to say at what cost, I know what cost. It's the customers who trusted me.
Yeah.
I can sell their trust.
Yeah, totally.
And profit from it. And that just feels bad. There's still a lot more to cover in this one. We will definitely come back and talk more about our individual approaches, I think, to creating products. But
yeah, I'm looking forward to picking this up with you again. I feel like we just got a lot done.
All right. Awesome. Okay. This is it for episode 12. See y'all next week. Like, subscribe.
Bye, everyone.
Like and subscribe.